Meghan Markle faced a disaster in 2024 when the Hollywood Reporter, now this is a publication that should be on her side, revealed the truth about her dictator-like, bullying-like behaviour.
The Duchess of Sussex finds herself embroiled in controversy once more. New bullying allegations have surfaced, casting a shadow over Meghan Markle's carefully crafted image. These accusations, though yet to be detailed, come as no surprise to those who have followed her tumultuous journey. Indeed, they seem to confirm the whispers that have long dogged her. Among her most vocal critics is journalist Wootten, who has consistently challenged Markle's actions and motives. Wotten's latest criticisms are characteristically scathing. He points to a pattern of behaviour that suggests a blatant disregard for royal protocol and a willingness to exploit her title for personal gain.
So, Lee, I want to kick off with the Hollywood Reporter because the Hollywood Reporter matters, okay? It is one of the most important publications for the entire entertainment industry. It is a Bible for the Hollywood elites. So this story is huge. Why Hollywood keeps quitting on Harry and Meghan is the headline. But then within this piece is a complete destruction of the way that Meghan Markle treats people. And in fact, this is just like the types of stories that I wrote during her time in the royal family and was accused, of course, of making things up or somehow being racist. But now her precious Hollywood types are saying exactly the same thing. So, what is the key quote? This is a source close to Harry and Meghan, Lee, who says that everyone is leaving the employ of the Sussexes because, quote, everyone's terrified of Meghan. She belittles people. She doesn't take advice. They're both poor decision makers. They change their minds frequently. Harry is a very, very charming person, no airs at all, but he's very much an enabler, and she's just terrible.
This, he argues, is evident in everything from her public appearances to her commercial ventures. Markle, he claims, is quick to leverage her royal connections when it suits her, yet seems all too eager to distance herself from the constraints of royal life. It is this perceived hypocrisy that fuels much of Wotten's ire. He sees Markle's actions as a calculated attempt to have her cake and eat it too. By accepting the privileges of royalty while flouting its traditions.
Now, this was an absolute major moment, Chris Davies, in the downfall of Meghan Markle in Hollywood, because you'll remember for a long time when there was the serious bullying allegation at Buckingham Palace, when there were all of the claims that I actually first reported, goodness me, back in 2018, so goodness, nearly 7 years ago now, about the fact that Catherine and Meghan had fallen out to begin with because of the way that Meghan was speaking to her staff at Kensington Palace. Because of the way, Chris Davies, Meghan was bullying her staff at Kensington Palace. Now, Meghan always tried to claim that we were somehow culturally insensitive for suggesting this. We just didn't understand, Chris Davies, how things worked in Hollywood. It was nothing to do with Meghan's behaviour. It was all to do with a certain British sensitivity. We just didn't understand. But that's not the case, is it? Because the Hollywood Reporter was only speaking to Americans, was only speaking to Hollywood figures whose description of her, as we just heard there, was completely damning.
She undermines the very institution she represents. This, Wootten argues, is not only disrespectful, but also deeply damaging to the monarchy. One of Wotten's most damning accusations is that Markle exploits her royal title for personal gain. He points to her various business ventures, including her lucrative deals with streaming giants and publishing houses, as evidence of this. These deals, he argues, would not have been possible were it not for her royal status. Markle, he claims, is shamelessly trading on her title to line her own pockets. Furthermore, Wootten criticises Markle's adherence to royal protocol. He cites instances where she has deviated from tradition, such as her casual attire at formal events and her outspoken views on political matters. These actions, he argues, demonstrate a lack of respect for the institution she married into. He believes that Markle's behaviour undermines the monarchy's image and traditions.
Well, it's a very interesting relationship that Meghan Markle has with the truth, because it seems to bear no resemblance to anyone else's truth apart from her own. It's also interesting that karma, Dan, it takes a while, but it does come around. And considering the revelations in that so-called book of Harry's, it's quite remarkable now how things have shifted. When they first went to the States, I think people were reasonably excited to see them, those that have an interest in so-called celebrities, as the new kids on the block. But of course, as time passes, the Oprah interviews have dried up, interest in them has dried up, and so therefore she becomes more didactic, more tyrannical, more difficult to deal with. She's a diva about the size of Beyonce, but on a 50p budget, is the way I would best describe Meghan Markle. And I think it would be lovely if they followed through on what they said they were going to do when they moved to Montecito and enjoyed the peace and quiet. And let's have the same from them.
I mean, they do not want peace and quiet, Charlie Downs, do they? But it's been a bad year in lots of ways. I mean, they only raised $1 million, which for them is utterly pathetic given the money that they raised for themselves. But I do think the worst moment of the year for Harry and Meghan were the revelations contained in the Hollywood Reporter, because all of a sudden you can't just write off the claims in the UK. And remember, there remains, Charlie, this bullying investigation under wraps at Buckingham Palace. We have never seen the results.
Yeah, well, I think this is key, this whole idea that they want a quiet life. I mean, I find it so tiresome talking about these two, because it's so obvious that...
Apologies.
To them, it's all good. Any attention is good attention for them. I think these are the types of people that we're dealing with here. She is another example. Again, she belongs to this kind of, what gets called woke phenomenon. But in her personal conduct, she is deeply unpleasant. She professes these, kind of left-wing, right-on
ideals,
views about the world. But actually, in the way that she treats people, by all accounts, allegedly, she's very unpleasant. And it's funny that, because, again, this is a political paradigm that seems to prioritize what you say rather than what you do. And that is crucial, I think. The brilliant Tim Dillon, American comedian, he called Meghan Markle just another sociopath with a logo. And I think that perfectly sums her up. She's somebody who seemingly is only interested in selling her product. She started a lifestyle brand. It was called something like American Riviera or something like that. It's clear that she's trying to sell a kind of aesthetic, but it's completely hollow. It's completely corporate, completely soulless. And I think that's what comes of, being this type of person, this kind of very unpleasant person, but who is at the same time moving in these elite media circles. It just makes you completely disconnected from reality. And I think that's her to a T.
Wootten also highlights Markle's behaviour at the 2024 ESP Awards as further evidence of her disregard for decorum. He focuses on the couple's early departure from the event, particularly noting that tennis legend Venus Williams did not stand as Prince Harry took to the stage to accept an award on behalf of the Invictus Games. This, Wootten suggests, was a deliberate snub, indicating a lack of respect for both Harry and the event itself. Adding fuel to the fire, Wootten alleges that Harry's acceptance of the award was against the wishes of Pat Tillman's mother. Tillman, a former NFL player who tragically died in Afghanistan, was the inaugural recipient of the award. By accepting the award in these circumstances, Wootten argues that Harry showed a lack of sensitivity and understanding.
Just another sociopath with a logo. Oh my goodness, I hadn't heard that. I absolutely love it.
Isn't it?
Who was that comedian?
Tim Dillon. He's a brilliant American comedian. Very funny.
Love it. That is, that is perfectly put, because that is the reality, isn't it, Chris Davies? Royalty is such an honor. And I'll tell you why it's such an honor, because you don't have to work for a living, but you have the option, if you want to take it on, to bring real change to a few key issues. And you know, Chris, I'm a real monarchist. That's not to say I support everything the royal family does or every member of the royal family. We know there have been some bad eggs. But if you look at members of the royal family who decide to use that unique power for good, so Queen Elizabeth II,
who absolutely understands the privilege that she has and the duty and responsibilities that come with it in a way that Meghan Markle never could and never would. What's quite clear now is that when she married Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, as he is now, she had no intention of hanging around. I'm almost 100% convinced that this whole episode is playing out exactly as she intended it to, but with one obvious exception. She hasn't got the noughts on her bank balance that she hoped she would have by this point in the curve.
Indeed. So is there going to be another billionaire around the corner? Who knows? We will see. Time will tell.
Wooten's criticisms of Meghan Markle are undoubtedly harsh. He paints a picture of a woman who is ambitious, manipulative and disrespectful of tradition. But are these criticisms justified? Or are they simply the product of a biased and vindictive media? The truth, as always, is likely somewhere in between. There is no doubt that Markle's entry into the royal family has been met with its fair share of challenges. She has been subjected to intense scrutiny, much of it unfair and often bordering on the abusive. It is understandable that she would want to forge her own path and challenge the status quo. However, in doing so, she has inevitably ruffled some feathers. Whether Wooten's criticisms are justified is a matter of opinion. What is undeniable is that his words carry weight. He is a powerful voice in the British media, and his opinions have the power to shape public perception. Whether you agree with him or not, there is no denying that Dan Wootten is a force to be reckoned with.